Hi, Ina. Thanks so much for doing this and for seeing me. And, taking your workshops really changed my life and gave me such a whole new appreciation for feminine energy and just everything masculine and feminine. With my photography, inspired me to go down a path and do a lot of my own exploration of what is masculinity and femininity and my pictures. And I've learned so much, but I've got so many questions to ask you, and I wanted you to take a look through this at some of them.
Just the fact that you've made this available to us, women don't even know what we look like. I just want to bring out that at least when a man, he looks at himself, he's external, and he gets to hold it, he gets to shake it. And with women, we can't even see ourselves because of our beautiful fur, our hair. And then we have to take a mirror and look at ourselves, so we're almost looking at ourselves backwards. So for us to be able to see the variety, this is as healing for women, and maybe even more so than for men. And what's wonderful about the body of teachings, the Shulakwe Kwadoshka, which comes from the ancient Native American, but we have to go ancient, Mayan and Toltec, handed down in oral tradition, observing the Tabbouleh, which is the female term. For instance, this is referred to as the sheep woman. So women who have this long tunnel, it's a long tunnel. The clitoris, though on this woman you can almost see it, but for a traditional sheep woman, the clitoris would be tucked up under, almost like this is the foreskin. This is her hood. And if you'll notice that from the long tunnel, the lips go right down into what is called the moth. So the moth is the inner lips, and this is actually her outer lips. This is the outer, this is the inner, though the inner protrude out. So this particular type of woman, the hood may be shorter or longer. This woman tends, because she sits in the south of the medicine wheel, the south is where the waters flow. So this woman has a tremendous heart connection. When she makes love, she likes to look at her partner. She likes to have her heart connecting to her partner. She's very, very fluid. There's a lot of lubricant. So just because this woman gets really wet, it does not mean that she's ready to make love. She can look at a movie. She can look at a sunset. It's her natural proclivity to just be very wet. Now, if we look at a different picture, I have a few of them marked here. Now, look at the fullness of this. Now, many men absolutely love this because they can lick and suck and they've got something they can play with. This woman oftentimes is so self-conscious because her lips are very thick and they protrude out. So even when the girls in the locker room are changing, what she's seeing is nothing, because the inner lips can also be tucked inside. These are not tucked inside. These women feel they've damaged themselves they like to play with themselves as it relaxes us. Self-pleasuring is not just to ejaculate or to have an orgasm. It's to just relax. So as a young girl, this woman oftentimes feels like she damaged herself. And nowadays, there is supposed to be, coming out of Hollywood, what the perfect Tabbouleh looks like. And so they're now offering to do surgery and to cut these lips off. It's horrendous. Please stop. That this is what is called a buffalo woman. She sits in the west of the medicine wheel where the earth is. So she's very earthy. This woman has a very shallow cave, and she tends to be quite wide. So another place this woman gets damaged is that when she makes love, if the man she's with does not have a good thick tapili, which is the male term for penis, if he's one of the smaller men, if she doesn't know how to use her PC muscles and kind of grab him, then she has a wide cave, so he doesn't have much feeling. Well, as before boys become mature men, oftentimes in their unkindness, they will say, "My God, how many men have you fucked? You're huge inside." And this, it crushes her because this is how God, Great Spirit, made her. So this woman works really well with a brother who's quite thick, where he can't even put his fingers around his own cock. And he tends to be more, let's say, on the shorter. So he's not 6 or 8 or 10 inches. He'd be 4 to 6 inches. and quite thick, and it works perfect for her. So she tends to be shallow. She tends to be fairly wide, and she likes lots and lots of sucking and lots of foreplay because her clitoris, once again, is oftentimes hidden in the folds of her sacred lips. There is so much to learn, and this is something that the ancient ones knew as a result of looking. We didn't have books back then. There were no movies. There was no TV. There was no VCRs. We're talking ancient times. So how did we teach each other? We used our bodies as the canvas, which you have done so beautifully here.
How fascinating. Everyone is so unique and has its own power and its own different way of making love, too.
This is a wonderful clue. If the men can learn to recognize, which means making love with the lights on, and before you just jump in the sack and have intercourse, you say, I have to look at you. I need to admire the beauty of who you are. Most women will just freak out. You're going to do what? Here's my face. Look at me. No, I need to look at you. I need to look at your sacred womb space, your pussy, your Tabbouleh. And when a man can see this, he can immediately say, oh, this woman does not like much oral, or this woman loves oral, or this woman is very deep. She wants her legs up and over her head. This woman does not want her legs up and over her head. She's shallow. So it would make men a much better lover to the feminine if they just had simple education. With this woman, what we're looking at here, this is called a dancing woman. Now, this is 60% of all women. This is where her clitoris is, and if I put my fingers here, from her clitoris to her opening is about 4 fingers. So what that means is when this woman is entered, unless the man is leaning right on top of her forward and grinding, her clitoris will not get stimulated. This woman has a very tiny clitoris. This is not her clitoris. This is just the skin leading up to it. You would have to pull the hood back and you'll see a tiny clitoris pop out. So her clitoris is small. There's a long distance between the opening, and this woman's G-spot is usually located very deep and tilted up. And I don't know any man's cock that's shaped in this direction. So this woman has a difficult time having orgasms with intercourse. And if she doesn't use a vibrator or finger stimulation to the clitoris, for the most part, it feels wonderful to make love to her man, but she doesn't know what the big deal is about because she doesn't have orgasms. 60% of women. So this is why a lot of women, they're not frigid. Their body anatomy requires different lovemaking, that's all. Now, this woman, with teaching, can learn to have orgasms with intercourse, can learn to ejaculate using a G-spot toy, or I call it a little snake. This woman can learn how to have all the orgasms all the other women has. That's why she's called dancing. She can learn to dance around the circle. But if she hasn't had any training, as most women haven't, this woman has a difficult time having orgasms with intercourse. You see, this is what's called a wolf woman. And she has these wonderful lips, and they're not real thick. The buffalo has very thick lips. These are thinner, and they will lay relaxed, but they'll open up into these beautiful little wings. Now, this woman's she's about 2 fingers from the clitoris to the opening. She'll be anywhere from 2 to 3 or 2.5. She has a medium-sized cave. Her G-spot is somewhat back. She tends to have a tipped uterus, which doesn't mean anything. There's no problems with that, but there's just a proclivity for the tipped uterus. So this woman doesn't like her legs all the way back over her head. Because of the tipped uterus, it will hit, and it's uncomfortable if the man is long. Now, if the man is shorter, and of course we have teachings for the women, I have all the same teachings for the brothers. As you know, and I'm encouraging you to please give us a book of pictures. I'm calling it stems. These are petals, and I want a book of the stems of the brothers. So to finish, this woman, because she's in the north of the medicine wheel, this is the place of the mind. We have the water, the earth, the air, which is the place of mind. She loves fantasy. Now, all of the women, if they've overcome their education or their lack of education, their upbringing, their religion, fantasy is a beautiful thing. Fantasy is what helps women come to orgasm. This woman particularly loves to fantasize, and she loves to howl. She loves to make sound. It's just her naturalness. So when she orgasms, her orgasm will be even more intense if she adds sound to it. And that's really true for everyone, but particularly for this woman. Now I want to show you what's called the deer. Now, and the Native American or the ancient Mayan, the type of orgasm that they related to the sweet medicine animal, it's because there's aspects of that animal that is very much. So this woman, a deer, is very alert. If a deer in nature will look up, will eat, and the ears are always moving. This woman likes to, there's variety here, and there's an alertness. This woman moves quickly, just like a deer can just jump and move. This woman has almost no lips at all.
Yeah, what a difference.
It's just amazing. And this woman's cave is very, very deep. This woman's G-spot is located within the first knuckle, finger, and it's right there. So the minute the man's Tabbouleh enters her, he's stimulating her clitoris and her G-spot. So within 2 minutes, this woman is in an orgastic state. This is what some men dream of, that they don't have to mess with the foreplay. They can go right into that good intercourse, good fucking. This woman has to learn to slow down. Every aspect of us has a pro and a con. So the wonderful thing is this woman is very, very orgasmic, and she loves intercourse. She just loves to get it on. She needs to learn to slow down and make it deeper and more satisfying. She's multiply orgasmic. All the women can learn to be multiply orgasmic. This woman, because she fires on, she also tends to get very dry. So here we have the sheep woman who gets wet, and that doesn't mean she's ready to make love. Now we have the deer woman who's hot, and she's so ready to make love, but she's totally dry, and she needs to use lubricant. Wouldn't it be wonderful, Nick?
To know this information.
Yeah. Wouldn't it make life so much easier for you men?
Yes. And for the women.
Yes. And part of it is, first we have to educate ourselves, then we have to be willing to educate each other. Now I've shared with you the what I call the cardinals, the southwest, north, east, and center. There are combinations of this. And the combinations are varied. This is so beautiful because here is her clitoris. This is huge. Compared to the other women, you could not even see the clit. My whole finger, that clit is as big as my finger, and it almost looks engorged. And here is her hood. Now we start looking, there's a thickness here to her lips. So we know she's not a deer woman because she has lips. We know that she is not, she kind of looks a little bit like that wolf because it's got the wings, but it's not thin. And do you see how there's just a slight bit of a shaft here?
Yeah.
So in this slide, there's a shaft there. So I would start asking this woman questions. Do you tend to be really wet? Well, now that tells me it pulls her closer to maybe the sheep. So she may be a combination of the sheep and the bear, which puts that in this the buffalo, the sheep and the buffalo, and that puts her in the southwest of the wheel. And so in that, what we're looking for now she may look completely. For instance, I'll just share something personal. On the outside, I looked completely like a wolf. My lips are beautiful little wings. I have a fairly nice thick clitoris. But the part of me that is deer is my G-spot is very close. I tend to get very dry. And I like a lot of variety. That puts me in the northeast. That is called the antelope. Antelopes are like a lot of variety. They like to move around the plains a lot.
Just being able to look at all these different ones.
Yes.
And I think getting an understanding that they are unique, and then with your teachings to kind of explain what it is going on. It's fascinating.
We've had women in the workshops who have said they were just about ready to have surgery because their doctors said, well, if you cut some of the lips off, it will allow more stimulation, and they did not do it. We've had women who've just been in tears, wonderful stories of somebody looking at them and saying, oh my God, that's the most beautiful pussy I've ever seen. And with tears, they go, I thought I was ugly. I thought I was deformed from pulling on myself. Women who are the dancing woman, who they oftentimes, dancing women may choose same-sex partners because they don't feel what they're supposed to feel with a man, and so they go to same-sex to see with a woman. And you'll find that there's a lot of gay women who are actually dancing women. But it's our choice as to who we want to be sexual with. And the anatomy tells us where the G-spot is, where the depth of the cave is, what the sweet, salty, tart, and how to truly, once again, bring that this is something beautiful. We don't need to be ashamed. We don't need to be ashamed. And this is what you have done, Nick. Yeah. And I know that the women that you've worked with, I know that you told me there was a time that you had to stop because it was so... It was
hard. There were times it was amazing to me that there were so few women who loved their genitalia and appreciated it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that they can't have that relationship like men do? Most men, I've noticed, we have relationships with our cocks. We love them. We look at them. We do that. Women don't. A lot of the women, when they came to pick the pictures up, I would lay them on the table with maybe 10 or 12 other ones just to see if they could find them. Very few who knew who they were. That, to me, was fascinating.
Well, I think that we have to look at our culture, our religions, and we don't have wise elders who are teaching us, the wise patriarch teaching us the beauty of the body. The body is still in a place of shame and clothing, not comfortable with nudity. You cannot walk around your house nude once there are children, although nudist families go to nudist resorts together and they play volleyball and basketball and everyone's nude, because nudity does not mean that it involves sex, that these are responsible actions. And so I feel it's the sexual repression. And for a woman to take a mirror and to look at herself, why do mothers not show this and educate their daughters? Because they haven't been educated, and their mothers haven't, and their grandmothers haven't. So we're talking generations that this is something that is shameful, and it was dirty because we flow blood. This blood is not dirty. This is life-giving blood. There's nothing wrong with this. Of course, proper hygiene is always important for men and women. And it's just sad that we are carrying on a tradition of puritanical sexual repression rather than acknowledging that God, Great Spirit, created our bodies. How can anything about our body, including that place which brings such pleasure to each other, why is it that we cannot re-embrace that God, Great Spirit, created us?
Oh, definitely. And I would say after doing over 100 of these, there were less than a half a dozen women who came in and were proud and owned it and loved it. And I definitely noticed a correlation. These women seemed to have a powerful self-being, and they seemed more loving and caring and happy and just more balanced. And that's why I love your teachings, and just so simply give back such a powerful part of life.
When a woman appreciates herself, accepts herself, there is a power. That power does not challenge the masculine. That power is what, when the male and female come together in that place of self-worth, self-confidence, self-appreciation, they stand strong together. They become two pillars of the temple, Kahil Gibran. So those women who have truly embraced once again who they are as sexual human beings, that's the dance.
Yeah.
Great Spirit created men and women to be different and equal. And if we can honor that in our anatomy, then the gift that we can give each other, we truly can create a new world that we live in.
Yeah, that's why I love your work. Go out there and keep it up. It's powerful.
Thank you. And you too. Oh,
Thanks.
And you too.